My dear friend, let me invite you to sit down with me for a while. Let us have a real heart-to-heart conversation. You know, after decades of practicing medicine and caring for people from all walks of life, I have come to understand a deep truth that most folks never pause to consider. When we think about getting older, we often imagine it is about physical changes, the wrinkles, the aching joints, the hair that turns silver. But far more profound are the shifts that happen in the mind and heart, especially for those who choose to walk through life alone. Many people ask me whether staying single as they age is a good thing or a bad thing. The answer is not simple. What I can tell you, however, is that the longer you stay single, the more you change in certain surprising ways. These changes shape your personality, your health, your relationships with others, and even how you see yourself in the mirror every morning. One of the first changes I have seen time and again is the deepening of self-reliance. When you are single for a long time, you become your own anchor. You learn to fix the leaky faucet on your own. You handle all your bills and appointments without help. You face every little and big problem with your own two hands and your own mind. Studies from the Journal of Gerontology show that single older adults often develop stronger problem-solving skills than their married counterparts. This is because they cannot rely on a partner to carry the emotional or practical load. While this sounds empowering, it can also make you more set in your ways. You might become less open to advice or assistance, even when it would truly benefit you. Over time, this fierce independence becomes part of your identity. You start to value your way of doing things so much that you may avoid situations where you need to compromise. This self-sufficiency can be both your greatest strength and your deepest solitude. The second way you change is in how you relate emotionally to others. When you live alone for many years, your emotional world becomes quieter. There are fewer daily conflicts, but also fewer spontaneous joys. A study published in the Journal of Aging and Health found that seniors who lived alone reported lower levels of daily stress, but also fewer high points of happiness. You might start to guard your heart more carefully. You learn to enjoy your own company to such an extent that opening the door to someone else feels risky. You may catch yourself feeling disconnected from friends who talk endlessly about their spouses or grandchildren. Your emotional radar adjusts itself to a different frequency, one tuned to solitude and self-soothing rather than shared experience. While this can lead to a beautiful sense of inner calm, it can also make it harder to form new close relationships later on. You might find comfort in quiet mornings with your tea and newspaper, but sometimes in the stillness of the night, you might feel an echo of loneliness that you do not quite know how to answer. The third surprising change is in your health habits and routines. When you are single for a long time, you get to design your days exactly as you please. You might eat dinner at 4 in the afternoon or 11 at night. You might sleep in the middle of the bed or only on one side. But studies from Harvard University have shown that long-term single seniors tend to neglect preventive health measures more than those who live with a partner. You might skip your annual checkups because no one is there to remind you or push you to go. You may forget to take your pills on schedule. You might eat less nutritious meals because there is no one to cook for or share a meal with. I have seen many patients who proudly declare their independence, yet silently struggle with managing their health alone. This does not mean that every single senior will have worse health outcomes. Some develop excellent self-care habits. But on average, the absence of another person who cares deeply about your daily well-being can have subtle yet powerful effects on your physical health over time. A fourth change that often surprises people is how their social circles evolve. When you are alone for many years, you might slowly drift away from social groups you once cherished. You no longer feel obligated to attend family gatherings or neighborhood parties. You might start declining invitations to dinners or trips. Research from the National Institute on Aging reveals that seniors who live alone tend to have smaller social networks. They might keep a few close friends, but gradually lose touch with casual acquaintances. This shrinking circle can lead to a kind of social rigidity. You may become more comfortable with solitude than with the lively unpredictability of human company. Over time, you may realize that your phone rings less and your doorbell echoes only once in a blue moon. While this can be a peaceful existence for some, it can also reinforce a sense of invisibility, as though the world has started to pass you by unnoticed. Finally, and perhaps most profoundly, is the shift in how you see yourself and your own aging process. When you are single for a long time, you may develop a different relationship with aging than those who age alongside a partner. You become more attuned to your own internal clock. You notice every little creak in your knees, every new line on your face. You may either embrace these signs with pride or feel an intensified vulnerability. Studies show that married seniors often perceive themselves as younger than their actual age, in part because they are reflected back through the eyes of a loving partner. On the other hand, single seniors must create their own narrative of aging without that daily mirror of companionship. This can empower you to define aging on your own terms. You may pursue new passions, travel to new places, or take up painting or dance at 70, but it can also make the journey feel lonelier when there is no one beside you to share in those milestones. You become both the witness and the historian of your own life. Every triumph, every setback, every quiet afternoon becomes yours alone to cherish or mourn. As a doctor, I have always believed in telling people the whole truth, even when it stings. I have seen patients who thrived in their solitude and others who suffered deeply from it. I have seen the power of independence give someone wings, and I have also seen it build invisible walls around the heart. The longer you stay single, the more these changes take root. You become a deeper, more self-aware, perhaps more stubborn version of yourself. You discover strengths you never knew you had, and you may also face weaknesses you once managed to hide in the comfort of companionship. We must remember that these changes are not purely negative or purely positive. They are simply truths of the human condition. Loneliness is not the same as being alone, and being alone is not the same as being lonely. Some people find a sweet, powerful freedom in solitude. Others find it a heavy weight. What matters is that you know yourself deeply and that you continue to nourish your soul no matter what path you walk. If you choose to stay single, make sure you stay connected to friends and community. Keep your doctor appointments. Find small rituals that bring you joy. Create a life that feels full to you, not just busy. Let me share a story of one of my patients, a woman named Margaret. She decided to stay single after her husband passed away when she was in her early 60s. By the time she reached 75, she had transformed into an extraordinarily independent and self-contained person. She had a daily routine of morning walks, gardening, and evening puzzles. She told me that she had discovered a version of herself she never knew existed. Yet when she fell and broke her hip, she faced a difficult period of recovery alone. No spouse to bring her tea in the morning, no one to help her adjust her pillows at night. She found strength in her solitude, but she also learned to reach out for help, something she had not done in decades. Margaret taught me that self-reliance is a beautiful gift, but it must be balanced with openness to others. In another example, I had a patient named George. He had been single his entire life, by choice. He loved jazz music and spent his evenings in his small apartment, surrounded by records and old books. He was 80 when I last saw him. He told me that he had no regrets about not marrying or starting a family. He had friends in the local music community and found joy in mentoring young musicians. His life was rich in a different way. He had learned to be his own best companion, his own counselor, and his own cheerleader. But even George admitted that there were days he wished for someone to laugh with in the kitchen or to hold his hand during a bad cold. These stories remind us that each life is a tapestry woven from many threads. The longer you stay single, the more vivid and unique those threads can become. But they can also become tangled if you are not careful. The key is to remain aware of how your mind and heart shift over time. As you age alone, you are given a rare opportunity to shape your own narrative, to listen closely to the whispers of your own soul, and to decide exactly how you want to live each remaining day. So, my friend, if you are on this path, I encourage you to embrace it fully. Honor your independence, but also nurture your connections. Celebrate your freedom, but do not forget to tend to your health and spirit. Learn to recognize the difference between solitude that strengthens you and isolation that drains you. And above all, remember that you are not defined by your relationship status, but by the love you give, the kindness you show, and the joy you cultivate within. In the end, the longer you stay single, the more you discover parts of yourself that might have remained hidden in the noise of shared life. You may become stronger, more introspective, and more creative. You may also become more vulnerable in ways you did not expect. These changes are natural and real, supported by countless studies and the lived experiences of so many I have had the honor to care for. The choice to remain single is a powerful one, and it deserves to be made with open eyes and an open heart. So take this knowledge and hold it close. Let it guide you like a gentle lantern on a quiet night. May it help you understand not only the changes that await, but also the beauty that lies within them. And remember, whether you walk with another or alone, your life remains an extraordinary story worth living to its fullest. Is it ever too late to start a new relationship in old age? My dear friend, I want you to sit with me for a moment and breathe in this question deeply. Is it ever too late to start a new relationship in old age? This is something I have been asked countless times by patients sitting across from me, sometimes with tears in their eyes, sometimes with a hopeful spark in their voice. It is a question that carries the weight of years, of memories, of past loves lost or never found. But the simple truth I have learned in my decades as a doctor and as a human being is this: it is never too late. Not if your heart is still beating and your spirit is still curious. Let me tell you why. First, we must understand that the human heart does not age the same way the body does. While the bones might become more fragile and the skin may wrinkle, the capacity for love remains as alive as it was when you were 16. In fact, research from the University of California shows that older adults often experience love more deeply and with more patience than young people do. This is because with age comes wisdom. You know what matters and what does not. You understand the value of kindness and gentle companionship far more than flashy romance. You have seen enough of life to know that love is less about grand gestures and more about quiet moments. A shared cup of tea, a walk in the garden, a hand to hold when the world feels too heavy. Some might say that starting over in later life is risky, that it can be painful, and that is true. But everything worth having carries some risk. Studies published in the Journal of Gerontology have shown that seniors who engage in new romantic relationships often report higher levels of life satisfaction and lower levels of depression. These findings tell us that the human need for connection does not fade. It may even grow stronger as the years pass. The loneliness that can settle into the corners of your heart when you live alone for too long can be softened by the warmth of new companionship. You might think that at 70 or 80, you are set in your ways. But what if I told you that love can bring out parts of yourself you thought were gone forever? A new relationship can remind you that laughter still lives within you, that your stories are still worth sharing, that your touch still has comfort to give. I remember a patient named Ruth. She was 78 when she met Harold at a community art class. Ruth had been widowed for over 20 years and had convinced herself that her time for love was over. But in Harold's gentle smile, she found a softness she did not know she still longed for. Their relationship was not about wild passion or dramatic confessions. It was about sharing meals, painting side by side, and reading to each other in the evenings. When Ruth came to see me after a year of being with Harold, she glowed in a way I had not seen before. Her blood pressure had improved. She had lost weight because she was more active and motivated to cook healthier meals. She told me that she felt alive again, as though someone had turned on a light in a long-closed room. This is not just one story. Similar patterns have been documented in medical literature. Emotional intimacy can improve immune function, lower stress hormones, and even reduce chronic pain. You might worry about becoming a burden or facing rejection. These fears are real and valid. But let us remember that love in later life is not about perfection. It is about companionship. It is about finding someone who understands your scars and shares your silences. Research from Stanford University shows that seniors value emotional safety and companionship above all else in new relationships. They are less concerned with appearances or social status. They want someone to listen to their stories and to be present in the small moments. This shift in values can make late-life relationships more authentic and deeply rewarding. Another important point to consider is that a new relationship does not mean losing your independence. In fact, many older couples choose to maintain separate homes or live in the same community, but keep individual routines. They design their relationships around mutual respect for personal space and freedom. This model is often called living apart together, and it has become increasingly popular among seniors. It allows for intimacy without the fear of being completely dependent on someone else. You can still be yourself while sharing your life with another. You can still wake up early to meditate or garden alone before joining your partner for breakfast. This balance can be deeply healing for those who have spent many years alone and fear losing their hard-earned independence. Of course, entering a new relationship in old age requires courage. You must be willing to open your heart again, to show your vulnerabilities, to face the possibility of loss once more. But I believe that the alternative, living behind emotional walls, can be far more painful in the long run. The human heart is designed for connection. When it is deprived of that, it begins to wither in ways that no medicine can fix. A study from Harvard's ongoing adult development study, which has tracked people for over 80 years, found that relationships are the strongest predictor of happiness and health in later life. Not wealth, not fame, not even physical health alone, but warm, supportive relationships. They are what keep us truly alive. I have also met patients who chose to remain single and were deeply content. That is beautiful too. But for those who still yearn for connection and wonder if it is too late, I say this: the door is never closed. Your age is just a number, and your capacity to love does not retire when you do. You are still worthy of love, and there are others out there who feel exactly the same way. You might meet someone at a book club, on a volunteer shift, at church, or even during a morning walk. The point is not where you meet, but that you remain open to meeting. Love at an older age may move at a slower, gentler pace, and that is a gift. It allows you to savor every shared moment rather than rush through it. It teaches you to appreciate the ordinary. A new relationship can give your days a new rhythm and your heart a new melody. It is not about replacing the past or fixing old wounds. It is about creating something new and meaningful in the present. So, is it ever too late to start a new relationship? My dear friend, as long as you are breathing and your heart is still open, it is never too late. Love can find you when you least expect it, and it can transform your final chapters into some of the most beautiful pages of your story. Let yourself be surprised. Let yourself be seen and cherished. And remember, every sunrise is another chance to open your heart again.